There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Grant. You might go by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD as a sergeant, and with me today is retired NYPD detective and straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy. How about you?
You know, good. In keeping with we've been covering some high-profile domestic violence cases, and I thought about reaching back into a story that was just blew up, and not just right after it happened, but stayed in the news for years and years and years and years. And that's the story of Mary Jo Buttafuoco. And it actually happened out on Long Island, Massapequa, Long Island. I grew up in Levittown. I was out of Long Island in 1992. I was living in the city, or actually up in Westchester at that point. But this story was all over the news, and to give like a synopsis of it, really, Joey Buttafuoco, who is a larger than life character, and I'll see if I can find a picture of him. There's a picture of Joey Buttafuoco with his wife Mary Jo, and he, of course, was the catalyst behind this whole story. He was having an affair at the time with a young lady who was 16 years old, who actually wasn't even of age. So that came into play also down the road. But the most heinous part of this, and there's a picture of the family, Joey Buttafuoco and Mary Jo and their two children, and he was a larger than life character. I think he owned an auto body shop. But he was having an affair with this girl, and for whatever he may have told this young girl, whose name was Amy Fisher, who you see at the bottom right, she obtained a .22 caliber pistol and shot Mary Jo Buttafuoco in the head. There's a picture of that right there. And for those folks that don't know much about firearms, a .22 caliber is a very, very dangerous round to be shot with, because it is so small that when it hits things inside the body, it ricochets and just does all kinds of damage. So luckily, Mary Jo Buttafuoco survived this gunshot wound and thrived even. But this was the catalyst for the whole story about the Buttafuoco family and the media frenzy that it became later on. And we'll get into all the different aspects of this case. But Phil, do you remember in this case?
Oh, absolutely, Billy. I think, well, right off the bat, Joey Buttafuoco was, a rough and tumble guy, owned a body shop, usually, very meek and mild-mannered people don't own body shops. So he was kind of a tough guy to begin with. This young lady comes in to get her car fixed. They start a romance. Obviously, she's 16. He's much older. I believe he was actually charged later on down the line with statutory rape. But this story had so much intrigue, interest. It was salacious. It was a gossip. It was something that tabloids just jumped all over, tabloid television, tabloid print. It was a very, very high-profile media story at the time. The kid, Amy Fisher, I call her a kid because she was only 16 at the time, or maybe when she did the shooting, she might have been a little bit older, 17. But she goes to the house to confront her, and she actually brings a T-shirt that belonged to Joey to prove that they were having an affair. When Mary Jo, who's much older, kind of, asks her to leave, she pulls out, you said it was a 22, Billy. It was a 25, actually.
A 25, you're actually right. You're actually
the
right.
25 caliber. Listen, they're both small rounds. You made the point. A small round, when it's fired, doesn't have a lot of penetrating power, so to speak. So it enters the body. It could cause actually more damage sometimes because it does have a tendency to bounce around. But she was left partially paralyzed in the face. She was left deaf in one ear. And we'll get into the whole, story of what took place in the years to follow. But this story, I think, till this day, is very, very interesting, intriguing, and people want to hear about it for some reason. It's I think because it toes the line of stuff that people would never cross, people would never do. Imagine a middle age, well, not a middle age, but a married man with a family, much older than a 16-year-old girl, gets involved and has a relationship with her, and then it just turns into a total disaster, so to speak. I mean, she nearly lost her life, Mary Jo, a true survivor. I think that falls in line with the domestic violence stories that we've, featured in the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, she's a true survivor. It's just, I gave a little preview of the early part of the story. The later part, going into the future, where she writes a book and stuff, and it really explains how she believed that Joey was a sociopath. So sure, but we'll get into that.
Well, just how this whole story, and we're going to get into it, how it just affected not just Joey and Mary Jo, but their children, the children um, that were very young at that time. And the children, Jesse and Paul. And Jesse has sort of somehow stayed in the limelight a little bit. She opened up sort of like an acting school or a performance school. But her brother, Paul, totally stayed out of the limelight, wanted nothing to do with this. As part of this shooting, the bullet lodged in the base of Mary Jo's brain above the spinal column, but she survived and then endured multiple surgeries and facial reconstruction. And when you get shot like that, it's not just the physical. There's a lot of mental aspects to getting shot that people, if you ever spoke to someone that got shot, they'll tell you about it. Mary Jo's life has turned around, and she says, "I don't want a poor me story. I'm content. I'm happy. I'm very grateful." So May 19th of this year will be the 30-year anniversary of this shooting, and how this whole shooting changed the lives of all of these people involved. Mary claims, that Mary Jo, I'm a housewife and not a movie star. I wasn't used to it. I had two young children still in school. I had to think about them, she said, of moving frequently. Because of the assault, her face is still partially paralyzed. She's deaf in her right ear, and the bullet is still lodged in her neck. These days, when she says, when I'm recognized, it's a positive thing. Mary Jo says, but back then it was me at the grocery store being stared at and yelled at. When this occurred, every damn tabloid show, and they were as guilty as the folks that were looking to remain in the spotlight. Joey Buttafuoco never met a camera he didn't like. If he saw a camera, he lit up and he was all over it, and they made a lot of money. Were they used by the press and were they used by the media? 100%. But did they also in turn use this story to enrich themselves? But Joey Buttafuoco was the type of guy, I believe I heard a story by their attorney, Dominic Barbara, who also became famous off of this. He was appearances on Howard Stern and all this other stuff. He said Mary Jo had told him that she wanted to go to rehab and that she was broke. She couldn't afford to go to the Betty Ford Center. And according to the story, Dominic Barbara said, I gave her my Black American Express card. I said, go ahead, you go. And he goes, what happened to the $3 million I just gave Joey? She goes, he blew it on bad investments. So not only was this guy, a flamboyant, he was sort of, the things he touched turned bad, not good. Many of the things he touched turned bad. And this is the story of that. And, the tabloid nature of this, but this was still what happened before this is what we wanted to examine also, is because this is a domestic violence story. What was going on in that house? Joey was a sociopath. So he was telling his family and his wife and his kids all kinds of lies that maybe he did never or would never ever live up to.
Well, Billy, right off the bat, you talked about the children and the family. When this incident took place, it's a traumatic incident, so I'm sure that she had some, mental issues, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you're a survivor of such a horrific, violent attack, so there's definitely going to be some PTS there. And then the kids got thrust into, the whole family got thrust into the spotlight in the mainstream media. I think probably in the beginning of the incident. They may have, just they may be starstruck a little bit with all the media attention and stuff. But then down the line, it seems like yes, everyone sort of capitalized on it. Even Amy Fisher, capitalized on it. So all parties involved used the 15 minutes of fame to their benefit at some point. But you're making a great point. It sounds like he was very controlling. I mean, she didn't leave the marriage until 2003. So, in the early stages of the whole thing, he was in full denial. I don't know what he was telling her publicly. He was denying that he even had an affair with this young girl. And then as time went on, it was obvious that it really was an affair. It did take place. It went on for about a year or so. And so again, what was his actions before this? How was he controlling Mary Jo and the family? He was described by her in the book that she wrote, which I think was called Getting It Through My Thick Skull, which I guess that's kind of an ironic title. Yeah, there it is. So she describes him as a sociopath based on the fact that his son, called him that. She looked it up, and when she saw what the definition was, she realized that she was in a marriage, in a relationship with a sociopath. So I'm sure there were a lot of things going on prior to this incident that he was probably very controlling, very possessive. He may have even been violent. We don't know if he ever raised his hands to Mary Jo, but you could use, mental, distress and mental, so to speak, torture on a person. And, she didn't leave the marriage for many years. So that tells me she may have had her self-esteem broken down and things of that nature, So again, right, like you said, right from the beginning, Billy, this is definitely a domestic incident that just spiraled out of control.
Folks, when we spoke to Leslie Morgan Steiner, who incidentally is going to be on the show again this Monday night at 9 p.m., she spoke about her experiences with domestic violence and, why did she stay? And sure enough, on the very cover of Mary Jo Buttafuoco's book, Getting It Through My Thick Skull, Why I Stayed, What I Learned, and what millions of people involved with sociopaths need to know. So are all people that are involved in domestic violence sociopaths, or are all sociopaths involved in domestic violence? I mean, I don't think so. But this story, takes many turns. This is a picture of Joey Buttafuoco today, and so it's 30 years. I believe I said this happened May 19th, 1992,
Yes.
and Joey Buttafuoco is still trying to stay in the limelight. He's working on a book. For whatever reason, everyone moved to California. That's a strange place to go to try to get out of the limelight. But of course, this happened on Long Island, Massapequa, Long Island, and they wanted to get away from there. But he looks very, very different now than he did, 30 years ago. I guess he's like 62 years old, and he's still trying to stay in the limelight. Is he working on himself? Is he getting therapy and all kinds of other stuff to stop being the sociopath? Has he changed? Is he better to his kids? I don't know if he has any real contact with Mary Jo anymore. But as Phil said before, Mary Jo stayed in the marriage for 11 years after she was shot, even through all the pain and the girl that he had the affair was shot is the one that shot her. I mean, just inconceivable almost. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. And if you want to join us and help support us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. And you see the folks in the green font, they're from our YouTube, they're channel members, and we appreciate all of them. We have 5 different levels to that. If you'd like to support us, you can go Police Off the Cuff housewife.com. Go on our website, and that's how you can join. So, Betty Smith, hi, Bill and Phil, and everybody from southern Minnesota. Good to see you. Is it a little warmer in southern Minnesota now? I know it's pretty damn cold in southern Minnesota.
They get
Alicia
some
B, good to
fierce
see you.
winters, yeah.
Rat 507. That's some name, Rat 507. But good to see you. Lorna McKenzie, always good to see you. Alicia B. Gerda Katzi, good to see you. Daily Wonder, right? Ramblin' Rome. Mickey Mantle, always good to see Mickey Mantle here, number 7. He's in the chat.
Love Mickey
great to
Mantle,
see you
number
guys.
7, my all-time hero.
All-time hero. So, folks, so the story is also the young lady here on the screen. That's Amy Fisher to the left, and she had many changes in life. Also, I believe she did 7 years in prison for this assault first degree with a firearm. And believe it or not, Mary Jo Buttafuoco actually summoned the court and said that she requested leniency for her and wrote letters that requested to get her out of prison early. And sure enough, Amy Fisher was released from prison after only 7 years for shooting someone in the head, which is sort of unheard of. But I think that Mary Jo Buttafuoco was instrumental in that. And is that forgiveness or is that craziness? What is that? I don't know if I would be so apt to try to forgive someone that shot me. I always question that. I always wonder how someone can forgive like that. Here's a picture of Amy Fisher when you could see she was just basically a kid. She was 17 years old as she's being pictured. In the picture you see on screen for the folks that are just listening, that's the perp walk. She's being walked out by 2 Nassau County detectives to or from court. It's funny she's cuffed in the front. We never do that in New York City. We don't care how small you are or whatever. You're getting cuffed, rear cuffed. So this story again, how did it affect that she is? I think that's the picture of her today.
Yeah, that seems
She
like
got
a
involved.
recent photo.
I think she was married. I know she has 3 kids. I don't know exactly what she does today. She was in the porn industry for a while. She was working in the porn industry. And as I said, I don't know what she does right now. This is a picture on the screen. You can see Mary Jo and Joey Buttafuoco. And here's the New York Post back around that time. It seemed that Joey Buttafuoco couldn't stay out of the news for one day back then. I mean, when you talk about, they were on every show possible. They were on Oprah. They back then, Geraldo had his own talk show. David Letterman, Saturday Night Live was doing bits on. He became like the laughingstock. Oh, you're a Buttafuoco. It became a name for someone who was sort of a shadrul, right? You're a Buttafuoco.
I think one of them, I don't know if it was Joey or Mary Jo, they might have even appeared on Saturday Night Live, if I'm not mistaken. But
it may have been Joey. But one of the things they learned a lot from dealing with the media was that they went on Donahue.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Phil
too,
Donahue, and according to what you read now, it was an attack. They attacked them like they were creatures, and that they were. Why did you stay with them? How did you let this happen? And the audience was unmerciful on them. And just think about that for Mary Jo, who was shot in the head, and she's got to listen to these people, calling her stupid, and why are you with this big moron, and why are you staying with him, blah 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 blah. Very tough. But as I said, they kept going on other shows. They stayed with the media, and I guess they didn't learn.
Billy, I just want to speak about the fact that she wound up notifying when Amy was incarcerated, that she wound up, speaking up for her and writing to the parole board to give her a parole. Now that speaks to the victimization of Mary Jo as well as Amy. Maybe she understood that Joey was a manipulative person, that she must have realized. Maybe she took a step back and said, this poor young girl must have been manipulated by Joey. Maybe she was even encouraged to attack her by things that he told her. Maybe he said, "Listen, I would leave my wife, but she's going to give me a hard time." Or he may have said terrible things about Mary Jo to Amy that encouraged her to go confront her and shoot her. So I think that there's probably some forgiveness in there as well. But I think the fact that she did write to the parole board and ask for an early release, she must have understood that this kid at 16 years old was manipulated by Joey Buttafuoco. And again, a 16-year-old, their brain isn't fully developed. Your brain isn't fully developed till you're 25 or 26 years old, whatever it is. And so I think that, manipulation through I love you and emotions and all the different things and promising the world to this young girl. However, I would give you all of that, but I can't because my wife stands in the way. He could have structured conversations that way, and that might have put the idea into this young girl's head to go do what she did. I don't think she just acted on her own. I mean, a 16-year-old, that would be pretty, 16 or 17-year-old, that would be pretty violent for a kid to go do something like that, just on the snap. But again, I think that, there's probably some forgiveness in there. She probably understood from her own relationship with Joey Buttafuoco that he was probably condescending, manipulative, trying to control her movements. And she maybe understood that. And maybe when she heard the other side, when she heard the stories, that she decided to, give this girl a second chance in life. Now, obviously, she didn't stay out of the limelight. She went into the porn industry, and there wasn't a camera that she could stay away from as well. So, maybe on Mary Jo's part, maybe this was a form of therapy to talk about it, to go on these shows. Unfortunately, she was attacked on Donahue, like you said. But, listen, whatever happened, whatever occurred, she was the true victim in this case. She was a victim of domestic abuse, probably by Joey, and she was a victim of this horrendous attack. I thought it was an attempted murder. I mean, if you shoot someone in the face, you're not trying to just hurt them. It sounds like you're trying to kill them. However, you said she was convicted of assault first degree. So whatever whatever the legal system did, it did. But so, she's the victim here. I mean, look at that bullet hole. She's left till this day deaf in one ear and paralyzed. Although she was on Oprah in 2006, and they said that she had facial reanimation procedure so that she could smile again. And they said it was tremendously helpful in restoring some of the hearing. And like I said, she wasn't able to smile. Her face was paralyzed on one side. And so whatever they did with that surgery, which was, all those years later, 2006 from 1992, I mean, do the math, that's about 14 years. So she was able to smile again. So that was a positive thing. And I think, for domestic violence survivors, this is definitely a story here. There's something to pay attention to, shine a spotlight, as we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. So very interesting story. Very interesting.
Maureen Serrati, I believe you're a retired detective. Welcome aboard. Thank you for watching Police Off the Cuff. She says, funny, watched the most recent 2020 last night. Amy Fisher's mother pleaded with Mary Jo for leniency at the time and to grant her bail. She stated Amy was changed, so Mary Jo wrote the judge. As of now, 2021, she says it's one of her biggest regrets. Amy has absolutely no remorse. So you live and learn, right? Forgiveness, is it always the right path to take? Tracy Foote, Amy Fisher lives a private life. She married and divorced after 3 years. She moved back to New York from Florida and changed her name. She's in hiding now. She said her life is already ruined. Well, I think she has some jealousy also that it seems that the Buttafuocos, or at least Mary Jo Buttafuoco, has made a lot of money off this and is living a very nice life. Look, she deserves to. She's the one that got shot in the face. And her book was a bestseller. So they cashed in on this. And I don't know if Amy, her life is as bad as it was before she decided to pull the trigger. Alicia B., she had 2 small children, probably all by herself, still in shock and having surgery. He denied it, and she wanted to believe it, because she had two small kids. You do what you have to do sometimes. You're referring, Betty Smith, to Mary Jo back when this occurred, undoubtedly. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in this story that even the the outcome now that Mary Jo's leading a nice life, and I'm sure she would have preferred not to have ever gotten shot in the face, not to have had this happened. Even though she made a positive out of such a huge negative, and she's living a good life. She actually was going around to colleges and giving speeches, and then of course what derailed a lot of us, COVID, and she stopped doing it, and she's talking about going back and giving talks again at colleges. I think it's a great story, and when she realized, her son told her that uh, Joey Joey Buttafuoco was a sociopath. It sounded like it was a surprise to her. And when you read what a sociopath is, it's someone with antisocial personality disorder, as does the term psychopath. The most recent edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which mental health professionals use to diagnose mental health conditions, defines ASPD as a consistent disregard for rules and social norms and repeated violation of other people's rights. People with the condition might seem charming and charismatic at first, at least on the surface, but they generally find it difficult to understand other people's feelings. They often break rules or laws, behave aggressively or impulsively, feel little guilt for harm they cause others, and use manipulation, deceit, and controlling behavior. So that is the definition, basically, of the behavior of Joey Buttafuoco. And to this day, I don't think he's healed from being a sociopath. I think maybe he's working on himself, which hopefully everyone's a work in progress, and you're not satisfied and say, I'm perfect now. I don't need to grow or learn anything else. I'm perfect.
Well, when you listen to that description of a sociopath, I'm going to think about obviously Mary Jo, but I think Amy was a victim as well. Now, she's 16 years old. Where were her parents? I mean, I don't want to knock them. I don't know them. I don't know the situation, but I feel like maybe she was a victim as well. She was victimized by this Joey. I mean, it's improper for a middle-aged man, or whatever he was at the time.
I think he was
Married.
32. He was
Okay.
32. She was 16.
Yeah, he's much older than her, and he had no business getting involved with this 16-year-old girl. It wasn't like a couple of years difference. This is a man with a family, and he obviously used his sociopathic behavior to manipulate her. So she's a victim as well. Now, I know that she did something horrendous and horrible. Where she got the idea, where she got the gun, that's all stuff that, was brought out in court and stuff like that. But, she's a bit of a victim too. I hope that she found a path in her life that is, she basically said that her life was ruined and she's in hiding now. Hopefully there is some type of, path to a normal life. And listen, we're all in pursuit of happiness. So that's really what life is about. Trying to be happy, trying to maintain a normal life. She sounds very, very victimized, and she sounds very, very, troubled. I think that, I look at her family, what happened in her childhood, where were her parents? There was no, nobody keeping an eye on her, so to speak, that she can get involved with this guy. And, listen, when you look at it, there's victims in both sides, in Mary Jo and Amy. And I think that Mary Jo may have recognized that. And that's why she put forward that, a letter to the parole board to release her. However, she feels like she never showed remorse about it. Now, I think she believes that it was a mistake. So, listen, it's never too late for redemption. And maybe if she, does feel redemption this day, I don't know if she ever apologized. Maybe she should, or she should at least ask for redemption. This poor woman is still suffering with the effects of this incident today. So, she's still paralyzed partially. She still has hearing loss in that ear. So, I think that if she's watching this or sees this, maybe she should try to, get redemption from Mary Jo.
Michael Geary, retired sergeant, attorney. Joey was definitely a narcissist. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I have
Oh, yeah.
no doubt to that. Sana Elise Hulth Johnson, good to see you. Always good to see you. I don't even know what time it is right now in the Netherlands, but you make an effort to see us all the time. Carlos Saya, right? Mobsters fit into that category as
Oh yeah,
narcissists. Yeah, absolutely.
sociopath and narcissist, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, Patricia Baylor, back then people weren't as familiar with psychopath, narcissist, and sociopath. Yeah, I mean, terms are terms, and people exhibit aberrant behaviors, and we see it a great deal when we look at domestic violence incidents, which we've been covering the last few days, and you see both sides of the person being abused and the person, the abuser, and the big question, of course, is always why? Why did I stay? Why did you stay? And in this incident, also, Mary Jo stayed for 11 more years in this marriage, which was somewhat hard to believe. Carlos, say I don't know if Amy Fisher was assaulted in prison. She was a high-profile inmate, so you would think that they would protect her. I don't know if that's a fact or not. What do we got? Claire Mack. So true at Patricia Bale. Now everyone is a narcissist. It's so overused, but certainly not in Joey's case. Yeah, it is an overused case. A narcissist basically means you're selfish, you're just self-centered, and that's all you care about. That's all you look about. And but I think we also have to look at this story as a story of redemption. And the person that is the most redemptive in this whole story is Mary Jo. Amazing that she was able to get her life together. Amazing that she's able to forgive. Sometimes forgiving is what makes you heal. Even though how difficult it is to forgive. That is the single thing. I think if you asked a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, they would tell you you have to let go of the hatred. Because what do they say? You let someone live rent free in your head, in your brain, and that's not helping you. And somehow, Mary Jo was able to let go of this and move on with her life and accomplish things. And according to when I read the story about it, she's moved like 20 different times within California. She did get remarried, and apparently that relationship didn't work out. But I believe she's like 66 years old right now. And I think, as far as, finances and stuff, I think she has enough money to live the rest of her life. And as I said before, she goes to colleges and gives speeches in regards to domestic violence and to her story.
Billy, when you talk about narcissistic behavior, narcissistics tend not to take responsibility for any of their actions. And I think Joey fits right into this. He lied about the affair, and he said, I didn't tell her to do this. She did it on her own. So again, he may have encouraged the whole thing. That's one of the things that I think narcissism is really, really prevalent, that they will not take responsibility. No one else. But they're never wrong. It's always everybody else. Everybody else is wrong. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. They don't take responsibility for anything. They're always the one that's right. Everybody else is wrong. And that's one of the things when you meet or you talk to or a narcissist that really jumps out at you. That's my opinion. And I think if you look at the definition of it, that's what you come out with. Now, it could be a term that is overused. People talk about it a lot, but someone in this case, I mean, she stood with him for those extra 11 years, like you said. And, he could have really been manipulating her thoughts and her mind, telling her, swearing behind closed doors. He's saying this and that. Maybe, we're going to go on this program. I'm going to say whatever, but it's not true. I'm just saying it for the, for the audience or whatever. And she must have believed it, but thank God that she got her head together and was able to get through this. And she wrote that book, and she's a true survivor. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Adam Trinchetto. I lived in the same neighborhood, 3 houses down on that day. Wow. Massapequa was a beautiful area. They had a beautiful house. There's nothing bad about the neighborhood that would cause something like this to happen. Claire Mack, hatred is a poison for you. 100%. You have to let go of hatred if you want to move on, if you want to live a healthy life. Maria,
I have to coin a phrase, Bill. I have to coin a phrase that a retired NYPD captain who now passed away said. And he said, when you have hatred, it's like taking a bottle of poison and hoping the other person dies. And I think that really fits, when you think about it. If you're angry and you're hateful and the other person's smiling away, what are you doing? You're hating that person, but you're the one that has all the anger inside of you and it eats you up. And, the captain that said that was Captain Plaquemire from Brooklyn South. He was a great guy. He passed away now, but it really made a lot of sense to think.
Yeah, I sort of like that thing. Holding on to hatred is like letting someone live rent free in your head, and that's true too, because
Yes.
you're giving them too much of your attention, and if and if hatred is that you don't want to pay any attention to them, but you're holding on to it for some reason. And that's what's so unhealthy about it,
You can keep something in the back of your mind and not forget it. I get that. If somebody does you wrong and you don't want to, but if you constantly talk about it and engage it every day and you let it eat you up, that person's winning. So you really have to try and, find some type of forgiveness or just to let it go. I remember I was in church one time and the priest said that in the sermon, the more that you let it eat you up, the more that person wins that did you wrong. So think about it in those terms. Listen, it's not easy. Every situation is different, personal issues. If somebody does you wrong, cheat you out of money or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it really makes sense. Like you said, Billy, don't let them take up space in your brain and don't hope by you keeping the poison inside of you that the other person's going to die, because it's just not going to be that way. And sometimes you have to wait for karma or, the guy upstairs to dole out justice. But, sometimes it's better just to back away from it, be happy and let that other person have whatever that they're doing, the ill that they're doing, let that stay with them, I think that's great
Alicia
advice.
B, this story is a good reminder that when we excuse away bad behavior, it rarely turns out well. Glad Mary Jo is doing okay, and I'm sure she's doing okay, but I'm sure she's a work in progress. Elena Buchholz, Amy's parents seem like good people. What do you think? I don't know really anything about them other than that they're Amy's parents. This whole case, I'm sure, negatively affect many people besides the main players in this. Oh wow, Maria. Is that Camacho? Maria Camacho? Oh, wow. That is sad. He didn't learn a thing. Well, Mary Jo is now 66 years old. That's right. And she's living in California. She seems to be happy. She's gotten her life together. John Donahue, I believe, to answer your question, are the kids in touch with Joey? I believe the daughter is. I don't believe the son has anything to do with him. I think the son's name is Paul Buttafuoco. He has totally removed himself from this case, wanted nothing to do with it, wanted to live his life on the down low. Jesse Buttafuoco still has a lot of animosity for her father, but actually still talks to him, if you can believe that, and they've all suffered. Jesse Buttafuoco had a bout with drugs and all kinds of other things over this, living through something like this. It's amazing. Michael Geary, Phil is right. The narcissist blames everyone else for their own problems. They are capable of great destruction and have no ability to self-reflect.
You nailed
There
it,
he is.
Michael.
That's why he's got a law degree.
You
He's a
nailed
smart
it.
guy,
You nailed Billy, I just want to make a quick comment about Amy's parents. Now, I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just talking about it. A 16-year-old kid should have had a little bit more supervision. Maybe they were incapable of supervising her or keeping an eye on her. I don't know what their situation was. I'm just trying to think of it in terms of the way I raised my children. Children, that's such a delicate age. Teenage years for both boys and girls is very, very delicate. That's the years that they could really stray off the path, whether it be drugs or gangs or anything like that. And obviously, listen, they may not have had the ability to keep a good eye on them. Maybe there wasn't a close family bond. A lot of times they say it takes a village to raise a child. Maybe there wasn't a lot of friends, family around them. And maybe they were busy with their, with their occupations or whatever it was. But, and again, I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just trying to make a point that I feel like had there been a little bit more close supervision with Amy at 16 years old, maybe she wouldn't have wound up in this horrible mess.
One of the things I just wanted to touch upon also is the how the media is so intoxicating, and we saw it also years later in the O.J. Simpson case, and I think that Mary Jo had commented on that. That was I think that was in '94. I remember when the Nicole Brown Simpson murder happened 2 years after me. I was like, that was me, but I lived. And she commented on that. And the other thing is that the intoxication of being drawn to the media. I remember Ron Goldman's father, and Ron Goldman was the waiter who was also stabbed to death next to Nicole Brown. And the father could not get off. He was on a talk show every single night. And I was just like, is that really appropriate behavior? Or is this a way of healing, maybe healing from his son's murder, that he's going on a talk show, a different Larry King. Every other night he was on a different show. I was like, I would think that someone would want to do the opposite, to get away from that, rather than to sort of marvel in the media buzz that was going on and just be, on every single channel as often as you possibly could be.
I think I think it's what you said. He was trying to, listen, he was obviously outraged at the outcome of the trial. He eventually wound up bringing a civil suit against OJ, which they won. There's a less of a threshold that has to be met with regard to evidence. It's a preponderance of the evidence, where a civil trial, there is 6 jurors and only 4 have to rule in your favor, not like a jury of 12 where it has to be a unanimous decision in a criminal case. But I think it's what you said, Billy. He was trying to, he stayed with it. That was, he felt outraged that there wasn't justice done, and maybe going on these shows was therapeutic, but it was also keeping the spotlight on OJ. And he eventually was successful in that civil trial. But it's not going to bring his son back. It may be just a way for him to have gotten through every day, so to speak. When you lose somebody like that, it's an unnatural thing. The parents are supposed to, the children are supposed to outlive the parents. So when a child is killed, I don't know, what situation he was or what his thought pattern was, but maybe he felt that this is the only way he could honor his son's, legacy and to continue on and to fight. And I think he did. He eventually won that civil trial. So
Yep.
you don't
Adam
know
Trincchetto
what
still keep in
person's
contact with her son. That's Mary Jo's son, Paul. Though they have lived in California after they moved away back in 1999. I remember being at school, seeing Paul running out of the school crying, then came home. Yeah, I mean, you can't, the devastation that a situation like this brings to the entire family. And then the aftermath of, like, Joey, who is known as a sociopath, of trying to cash in at every corner through television, through appearances, through speaking, he was boxing, he was doing celebrity boxing, he was doing everything he could to make a living. And maybe that's because I think after that he had lost his body shop, because maybe, I don't know, people didn't want to deal with him, or I don't know what the circumstance was. So he had to make a living somehow. But it seemed like he never, as I said, he never met a camera he didn't like.
Yeah.
Sergeant Friday, that makes no difference. Other people with 2 working parents don't have affairs with married men and shoot their wives. Maybe Amy just wasn't a nice person. Enough with blaming the parents. Yeah, well, touche, Betty. You could be right. I don't know. It seems that we all always want to try to assign blame. Isn't that sort of the American way? I know that's the way of the police department. The police department always likes to assign blame and find out who's responsible. And if it's a cop, they're going to take a piece of him. Who's responsible for this? Who screwed up on this? Alana Buckholtz. Ron's father didn't want his son's murder to be pushed to the side. It's all about Nicole and the media. Very possible, Elena, but I'm a little baffled sometimes why people they sort of bask in the limelight of the media, even after horrendous things occur. And as I said, the media can be intoxicating.
The media gets intoxicated with these salacious stories, obviously, but there's one thing that any person can do when media knocks on your door and wants a interviewer wants to talk to you, and you say no comment. If you say no comment enough times, sooner or later they're going to go away. That's just something that these people didn't do in this case, whether it be Mary Jo or Joey or Amy. They played into the whole media thing. And, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just stating facts. If the media comes knocking at your door and they camp outside your house and you say no comment enough times, sooner or later they're going to go away because they're not getting anything to broadcast. So, but in this case, it wasn't that way. And listen, again, I wasn't knocking the parents of Amy Fisher. I'm just pointing out, just looking for the reason as to why, like you said, Billy. What caused this? What was the reason that a 16-year-old girl was involved with a guy that owns a body shop that was maybe 15 or whatever it was years older than her? So that's really all we were looking for is the reason as to why. And again, we have a woman that nearly lost her life. Mary Jo was shot in the face and left, almost for dead, but and still scarred till this day. So yeah, I think there is a lot of questions around something like that.
Folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. John Beatty Law, www.jbeattylaw.com. John Beatty is a renowned personal injury attorney. He also retired as a decorated NYPD sergeant. John comes from a proud NYPD and FDNY family. He was an active sergeant in Brooklyn North and supervised in the legal bureau. John is a proud member of the Honor Legion and the Blue Knights. John Beatty litigates across the country for seriously injured victims and has helped recover over $200 million for grieving families. Call John now for a free consultation. John Beatty, attorney at law, 917-797-9520. That's for John Beatty, a personal injury attorney. Let me see if I can now find the Joe Murray. There we go.
Joe Murray, attorney at law. Joe's a great fan and a guest of Police Off the Cuff many, many times, so you can judge him for yourself. But have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you could email Joe at jmurray-law.com.
The secret to quickly hiring the best police officers before your competition does. With an extremely limited job candidate pool, law enforcement agencies have to quickly identify and hire qualified police officers before another agency does. That's why nearly 70 U.S. agencies have updated their hiring process to include iDetect, a fast, affordable, non-invasive, unbiased, and automated lie detector. It accurately identifies lies by watching the eyes. iDetect also helps solve crimes. Convera CEO Todd Mickelson was on the show, and he shared stories about how iDetect is changing the way the world detects deception. Remember, the eyes don't lie. Converis.com, 1-801-331-8840. info@converis.com is the email. So, Phil, the big thing with this case, of course, we're talking about domestic violence. And here was a domestic violence situation without there being specifically violence from the husband. I don't believe that Joey was violent with Mary Jo, but I think this qualifies as a domestic violence incident because he manipulated her in so many other ways and was abusive in so many other ways, in a mental way, not in a physical way. And look how this turned out. And so we have to classify this case as also a domestic violence case.
If you beat a person down and you attack their self-esteem on a daily basis, over time, that person is going to be really unable to function on a normal, relationship point of view. So again, like you said, it's mental duress, it's mental stress. I really believe that's the reason that she didn't, she had the children. How is she going to support her children if she walked away from Joey? And then you have that the self-esteem being brought down, and maybe she felt like she couldn't go out and have another relationship. And then when she did eventually leave, and she was in another relationship, there was problems in that relationship. So a person's personal behavior and their personal relationship uh, uh, is affected by these type of things. You can't be told that you're not of any worth every day, or whatever it is that a person like that beats down their self-esteem says, and not have it affect your everyday life. So that's probably what happened in this case.
100%. Claire Mack, OJ, trying to make money and almost mocking them. Yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
you know something? I think his big payday will come when he stands in front of the Lord. you know,
Oh,
uh,
for sure.
Fonda Milanesis, Drew Peterson, the Illinois detective, big narcissist. There's narcissists all over this place. Jersey Girl 732, Joey didn't stop going in the spotlight when, if his own father told to, he couldn't help himself, not even for the sake of his elderly father. Yeah, I think, people get intoxicated by the media, and they just have to be uh, in the spotlight all the time. And it's really a crazy thing. Mary Glick, mental abuse is the same as DV, but no outward bruises. It takes years
Yes.
to get over. Yes, I'm a survivor. Thank you, Mary Glick, for posting that. Uh, Joey, a legend in his own mind. These creeps. yeah, he's still out there. He's trying to write a book now. I guess people haven't had enough of this story. There he is, Joey. He was sort of that big Italian stereotype. The big tough guy. And I remember when he was going to jail for 6 months. One of the reporters said to him, "Joey, how are you gonna be in jail? Are you gonna be all right?" He goes, "Hey, I'm 6'2". I weigh 250 pounds. I bench press 405. He goes, "I'm not gonna have any problems."
Yeah.
So he was pretty confident in himself too.
You know what, too, Billy? When you look at where this case took place, Massapequa, a middle to upper middle class area of Long Island, it was kind of out of the ordinary for something like this to happen, obviously. And I think that's what grabbed the media spotlight right away, that this wasn't, some type of violence that was happening in a really depressed, bad area. This was middle to upper middle class America, so to speak, and, out on Long Island. And so for the media spotlight to be pointed in this direction, it was easy to make a story out of it, and then everyone just played into it, so to speak. And I think the interest is still there till today. If he's writing a book, or if Mary Jo's writing a book, and now Amy's seems to be, she's taking a back seat to the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, one of the people in the chat said that there was a 2020 episode last night talking about it. So that tells you that there's still the media interest in this case.
Yeah, 100%. And I find it a little, well, not strange. I don't know the correct word, but with Amy Fisher feels sort of slighted that everyone's made a lot of money from this except her, you know. And well, should you be punished? Should you be rewarded for bad behavior? You shot someone in the head. Do you think that you should get a reward for that? These people, Joey on the screen right there, and Mary Jo. And I don't even know how well Joey Buttafuoco cashed in. I don't know what he made money, but he blew the money. But I think that Mary Jo Buttafuoco apparently has done well. That's what I'm reading. Who knows? She's living in Malibu. Malibu, California, is sure as hell is not an inexpensive place to live. So if she is doing well, God bless her. She went through hell, and she continues to mentally have to deal with the aftermath of these things. And there's Amy Fisher on the screen. And is she a victim? I don't know. You can argue one way or the other whether she's a victim of this or not. In one way, she was victimized by Joey, but that doesn't give you license or the right to shoot someone in the head.
Absolutely, Billy. I think that you showed the People magazine cover, a tale of sex, greed, and betrayal. I mean, right there. You look at that, a shocking tale of sex, greed, and betrayal. That headline, it really shocks people when they read it. It's lethal Lolita. I mean, think about it. So, and yeah, I think she is a victim somewhat. I mean, listen, she went to jail for shooting her, and that was obviously wrong. But the reason I call her a victim of sorts is because she was only 16 years old when this whole thing started. And, I think that the argument can be made that she is somewhat of a victim. She needed to be held accountable for shooting Mary Jo 100%. But there was some victimization on her side. And obviously, Mary Jo is a victim as well. And this narcissistic behavior, sociopathic behavior by Joey is really that's the cause of all of the stuff that you have here, all of the victimization.
100%. Adam Trinchetto, he's referring to Massapequa in this. It was an amazing town and neighborhood. Loved it since I was born there, being on the water, but their name always brings a bad name to our town. So the Buttafuocos have forever tainted Massapequa. Adam, I grew up in Levittown, and we used to play sports against Massapequa. And we always used, as Levittown kids, we always used to consider we were the poor kids, We were the poor kids, and Massapequa were the rich kids, and our coaches would preach that to us. Let's go there, and, you're playing these rich kids. They're eating caviar after the game, and, that's how they tried to motivate 12-year-olds, but we bought into it. And Massapequa was a great sports town, great town to this day. And I could see how this incident could have muddied up the town a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a negative connotation to the town, but it's not a reflection of everyone. It's obviously a reflection of Joey Buttafuoco, but again, a little bit of victimization towards Amy, a lot of victimization towards Mary Jo, and I don't think that everybody in Long Island is caught up in these soap opera type scandals as deep as this, but yeah, I guess it does have a little bit of a negative connotation for Massapequa, though.
For sure. Folks, so we were trying to stay with the theme of domestic violence, and I came up with this. I actually watched some of the 2020 on this case last night, and I was so familiar with it. I mean, 1992, I was a police sergeant, and I had only been on the job for I think 7 years. I came on in 1985. But this case was all over everywhere. It was all over the media. It was everywhere. I mean, I remember Madonna was on Saturday Night Live, and after her song, she held up a thing with the sign with the no on it with Buttafuoco, no Buttafuoco. And so that was that big of a national story that it was all over everywhere. Apparently, David Letterman every other night was using Buttafuoco as a butt of his jokes, so you can understand why the family of the Buttafuocos wanted to get the hell away from Long Island and away from what they had to deal with this. Was crazy. And okay, thank you for the 19. I know it's a different currency, but thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Patty L, inflated sense of self-worth, importance, these two, Joey and Amy. Hi, Bill Ryan, Jamie Pimpton, Maureen Serrati. Okay, Maureen, this is your first time here, but I'm going to read your, because I know you're a retired detective. It's amazing that society still feels a woman or a teen must be a victim. There are inherently bad people out there, kids who kill, women who kill. Amy was no victim. She was just as much a narcissist and met her match in Joey. She was used to playing people, so she wasn't getting played by Joey. They were gasoline and a lighter. It was a game for both of them and continues to be. Amy was escorting in high school prior to meeting Joey. Sex tapes from her prostituting came out after the fact, I guess. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm just looking at a 16-year-old kid that could be manipulated and steered, and she may have had narcissistic tendencies and behavior. You could be 100% right. She could have been a wild monster in the making, but at 16 years old, I think it might have been very easy to manipulate her feelings. She's just a teenager. I guess we won't know one way or the other what really took place between Joey and Amy behind closed doors, the things that he said to her, how he tried to control her. But I think there's a clear case for Joey to be considered a narcissist, a sociopath. And I'm just looking at the fact that she was 16 years old at the time and could have easily been manipulated. That's why I think she's somewhat of a victim. I'm not saying she's a victim of this case. She's somewhat of a victim. She was victimized at
Yeah, she was
a young age,
victimized. Whether
for sure.
she's a victim, we can use the verb. She was victimized, right?
Absolutely. She was
That
victimized
she's
by this guy and
yeah,
put into a situation. Now, look, she took it upon her own, she took it upon herself to go shoot Mary Jo.
right.
But I think if she wasn't in the situation, she probably wouldn't have been presented with something like that.
Jimmy Calandra says, "Hey guys, I think you guys need to have Amy on the show next."
She's welcome to come on anytime. If she
You
gets a
know,
hold of this, we'd love to have her on.
she may have had enough of this. Jersey Girl 732. Amy was a young girl looking for love in all the wrong places. That was a movie at that time. Urban Cowboy, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love. Remember that
That's
song?
right.
It was with John Travolta and who was the female
Urban
actress?
Cowboy. Oh, geez. I remember John. I don't remember
John
the
Travolta. I
female.
can't think of her name right now. She sort
Somebody
of
will put it
faded out
in
of
the chat, I'm
acting.
sure.
Well, folks, we're at an hour. We're gonna start folding up the tent. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We thought we would take a bit of a dive into it, and it's an interesting case. And we hope that everyone involved in this case leads a fruitful, next part of their life, because this was really the 30-year anniversary is May 19th, I believe. That's unbelievable that it was that long. Phil, final words.
Final words, Joe. Billy, I think this was a good show to put together based on the recent events, the couple of cases that were domestic violence related homicides, which was Cassie Carley and Naomi Arian. We did in the last 2 weeks. It was just a spotlight on domestic violence to bring awareness and to show people that there is help out there. We highlighted a bunch of different scenarios regarding protecting yourself, and there is help out there. And I think that this show today, we actually had a little bit of a conversation about whether or not we believe Amy was a victim or not. So it's good to talk about it, bring it out there, shine the light on it, and God bless all those families of the victims themselves and their families of domestic violence. And there couldn't be enough said about this. One domestic violence victim is one too many.
The actress' name was Deborah Winger, and the movie was Urban Cowboy with John Travolta and Deborah Winger. Folks, thank you so much for listening today. We'll see you soon. Have a safe day.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.